Hello guys, welcome to our channel Tipsy Storyteller. Today we are going to tell you the complete plot for movie It's a Wonderful Life, released in 1946. James Stewart plays George Bailey in the movie, a man who has sacrificed his personal goals in order to aid those in his society. On Christmas Eve, George Bailey has suicidal thoughts, which prompts Clarence Odbody, his guardian angel, to step in and save him. One of the greatest movies ever made is It's a Wonderful Life. It has been named one of the 100 greatest American movies ever made by the American Film Institute and received 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. The American Film Institute ranked it as the 11th best picture of all time in 1998, the 20th greatest film of all time in 2007, and the top American film of all time in terms of inspiration. Capra admitted that it was his favorite of his own productions, and he showed it to his family every Christmas. One of Stewart's favorite movies was that one. The movie was listed in the Library of Congress National Film Registry in 1990 after being deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically important in quote. So grab a beer, and let's start storyline for the movie It's a Wonderful Life, and don't forget to like and subscribe. In Bedford Falls, New York, on Christmas Eve 1945, George Bailey muses over suicide. The guardian angel Clarence Odbody is tasked with saving George in order to earn his wings, and the pleas of his family and friends are heard in heaven. George's life is portrayed in flashbacks for Clarence. He sees his younger brother Harry being saved from drowning by 12-year-old George, but he loses his hearing in his left ear. Later, George stops Mr. Gower, the pharmacist, from accidentally poisoning a prescription. Mr. Gower is heartbroken by the murder of his son. Before starting college, George arranges a globe tour in 1928. Mary Hatch, who has been infatuated with him since they were little, is reintroduced to him. George delays his trip to settle the family firm, Bailey Brothers Building and Loan, after his father passes away unexpectedly. Henry F. Potter, an erratic board member who dominates most of the town, wants to disband it, but the board decides to keep the building and loan open as long as George manages it. George agrees, works alongside Billy, and pays Harry's tuition with the understanding that Harry will be in charge of the company after he graduates. George accepts control of the building and loan when Harry, who is married and has received a job offer from his father-in-law, returns from college. Mary and George get back together and are married. They observe a bank run and use the honeymoon funds to keep the building and loan company afloat. Potter's costly slums are replaced by Bailey Park, a contemporary housing complex, thanks to George's leadership of the corporation. George accepts Potter's offer of a $20,000 a year salary after discovering that Potter's true goal is to close the building and loan. Due to his deaf ear, George is unable to serve in World War II, but he is nonetheless involved in the home war effort. Harry receives a hero's welcome on Christmas Eve 1945 from the community after receiving the Medal of Honor for his efforts as a U.S. Navy fighter pilot to thwart a kamikaze attack on a troop transport. Billy travels to a bank to deposit the $8,000 in cash belonging to the building and loan. He mocks Potter with a newspaper headline about Harry while carelessly enclosing the money in Potter's paper. Billy can't remember where he put the money, but Potter discovers it and keeps it. As a bank examiner looks over the company's documents, George believes there will be a controversy and subsequent legal action. George chastises Billy and vents his annoyance on Mary and their children after futilely retracing Billy's steps. George asks Potter for a loan and pledges his life insurance as security. Potter reprimands George, declines to assist, and calls the police. George leaves Potter's office, goes to a pub, gets wasted, and begs for assistance. Suicidal, he approaches a neighboring bridge, but Clarence jumps into the river and George saves him before he can leap. Clarence shows George a timeline in which he never existed when George wishes he had never been born. Pottersville, the former Bedford Falls, is a seedy community filled with shady nightclubs, criminal activity, and nasty residents. Because George was not present to prevent Mr. Gower from accidentally poisoning the prescription, he was sentenced to prison for homicide. His mother doesn't know George. After the building and loan went under, Uncle Billy was institutionalized. In the cemetery known as Bailey Park, George finds Harry's grave. Harry had drowned without George when he was a boy, and without Harry to save them, the soldiers on the transport ship perished. Mary, who is now a spinster, screams for the police when George approaches her and claims to be her husband. George then departs. Running to the bridge, George begs Clarence to save his life. When the original reality returns, George rushes home to prepare for his arrest. In the meantime, Mary and Billy have organized the locals, who generously contribute more than enough to make up for the missing funds. When Harry enters, he declares George to be the richest man in town and quote. A copy of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer that Clarence sent George along with a note telling him that no man is a failure who has friends and thanking him for his wings can be found among the donations. Zuzu, George's youngest child, says that when a bell on the Christmas tree chimes, it signifies that an angel has earned his wings. George acknowledges that his life is absolutely amazing. Hope you guys enjoyed movie plot. Thanks for your time. Cheers.